From Studio 3B in Rockefeller Center, here is Stone Phillips.
What do the Windy City, one of the world's most popular games, and Madonna have in common? Well, here's a hint. He leads the league in tattoos, hair colors, technical fouls, and rebounds. He's Dennis Rodman, the X factor on the hottest team in professional sports, the Chicago Bulls. That's X as in excitement, X as in extreme. He may be flamboyant, his actions hard to fathom on the court. But when the games are over, as you're about to see, the real Rodman comes out to play.
He plays hard. Relaxation is a contact sport for Dennis Rodman. He works hard. Basketball is a war game for Dennis Rodman. And often, he's just plain hard-headed. Life is an obstacle course for Dennis Rodman, whether he's bumping into barriers or breaking them down.
When you go out on the court with your fingernails painted pink or blue, you don't get comments?
No.
Nobody says anything.
A lot of people are afraid to say anything to me.
Sports Illustrated says you don't give a flying halter top what your peers or employers in the NBA think about you.
You're right, I don't.
Rodman!
Single-handedly, the controversial bad boy of the Chicago Bulls is giving the old-fashioned clean-cut image of the pro athlete a major facelift. In the way he colors his hair, the way he pierces and paints his body, and the way he dresses.
Have you ever worn a dress?
Yeah, I've worn a dress before. I mean, I'm not out, but I've, tried them on. If you feel good about your masculinity, you do anything you want to.
And he seemed to be feeling just fine about his masculinity when we caught up with Rodman at his suburban Chicago home last month. It was the beginning of an adventure off the court that went well into overtime. Part of our unprecedented inside look at everything from how he gets his hair done to what's in his closet and how he'd accessorize for our formal interview 2 days later.
You look ravishing this evening. So, do the Bulls have a dress code?
Yes and no.
The outfit he selected, boa and see-through blouse, was just provocative enough to make a former girlfriend proud. And not just any former girlfriend.
Madonna. Tell me about Madonna.
I'm out there. And she liked what she saw.
During their 6-month love affair in 1994, Rodman says Madonna was desperate to have his baby and even get married.
Madonna could have been Mrs.
Madonna.
Dennis Rodman.
She would have been Madonna. There would have been no Mrs. Rodman there at all. It would have been Madonna. If she want to keep her last name, great. Keep your last name.
After all, why take his name when she was already wearing his number? We'll hear more about their surprising relationship later. But one thing that's obvious, just as Madonna transformed herself into much more than a singer, Rodman, by his own invention, has become much more than a basketball player.
You're an athlete, you're a performer, you're a sideshow, everything. And that's what I do. I entertain all the time.
Do you amuse yourself?
All the time. All the time. No one else is going to do it.
But there was nothing amusing about Rodman's life back in 1993. His new book, Bad as I Want to Be, page 1. Rodman writes of sitting in his pickup truck with a rifle in his lap, deciding whether to kill himself, depressed over having to put on an image that just didn't fit.
A lot of people in the world come to a point where they're like, God, I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to take this. I don't want the burden, the pressure, and the agony.
Psychologically, what took you to that point?
I don't know, just a combination of a lot of things. It's just not really having anyone to confide in, not have anyone to be close to, not have anything that was there that was rock solid.
In the end, he didn't pull the trigger, but emotionally, he would never be the same.
You write in the book that night you put an end to the good Dennis Rodman.
I put an end to the fact that I was trying to be like everybody else. Quit being a follower all the damn time.
Even as a child, Rodman was something of a recluse. He grew up in inner-city Dallas, the youngest of 3 children, in a broken home.
I've had pain all my life. I've had pain growing up in the ghettos, in the projects. I've had pain seeing my mother suffer through a lot of trials and tribulation when she's trying to raise 3 kids and 3 jobs. I've had my father leave me when I was 2.
The only male in a household of women, he saw his 2 older sisters become college basketball All-Americans. Rodman didn't even make his high school team. After graduation, he grew 8 inches, went to junior college, but fell in with the wrong crowd.
Thugs.
Thugs is what he called them when we first interviewed Rodman 2 years ago. He said then that one thing and only one thing made him wise up when he went to this jail. It was only for a day for stealing watches, but it marked the beginning of his turnaround to college basketball star and NBA standout.
And the pain I've suffered over the years have made me not forget what it's all about. And that's why I work so hard.
And the hardest, least glamorous work in the NBA is Rodman's specialty. Battling players much bigger and bulkier, he led the league in rebounding for the 5th straight season. Chicago fans of all sizes and ages love him.
His game is blue collar. He'll give up his body to get a rebound or to save a ball from going out of bounds.
No nail polish or nose rings in this crowd. And yet these cigar-chomping Chicago sports writers say Rodman's their kind of guy, the perfect lunch bucket player for their city.
What he is he's a guy who punches a clock and plays hard every day.
But as much as he's a team player, he's still a solo act and a bit of a mystery to the Bulls. Off the court, he withdraws into his own world and rarely talks to teammates. But listen to what his coach, Phil Jackson, told us.
He has to be drawn in. It's like he's almost so shy at times.
And on the court, he can be his own worst enemy.
Do you ever say to yourself, I screwed up, I went too far this time?
A couple of times I went over, but, this fine line. And I slipped, but I'm back up again.
And no slip was bigger than this season's headbutt when he appeared to intentionally bump a referee. With one glancing blow, Rodman handed his critics another opportunity to label him Dennis the Menace, out of control.
He was trying to do something. He was calculated. And I think that was even much more concerning to the league.
It wasn't calculated at all. Not at all.
That's what Phil Jackson says.
If I really meant to hit him, I would have knocked the hell out of him. It was accidental.
Whatever the case, the NBA came down hard on Rodman. When we spoke at his home, we were watching on television Game 5 of the 6-game suspension that cost him $220,000.
Are you sorry you did it?
I'm sorry the fact that I put my team in a bind. I'm not sorry that the fact that I have to lash out just to get the respect that I want.
So in your mind, another example of them coming down hard on Dennis Rodman?
Of course.
Because of who you are, how you look, how you act.
Of course.
Doesn't some of that come with the territory?
But it shouldn't be like that.
Although Rodman feels constantly picked on, his coach says he just has a bit of a persecution complex. Either way, the headbutt didn't seem to hurt Rodman's commercial appeal, because it's precisely his unique niche as an anti-hero that advertisers are buying. In fact, during his suspension, he used the downtime to shoot extra commercials like this burger ad, making up for some of the lost basketball income. Which makes you wonder if Rodman knows exactly what he's doing, that just being his outrageous self is not only good for the soul, it's money in the bank.
Some people say you are crazy and self-destructive. And other people say that you are crazy like a fox and on the road to self-awareness. Which is it?
I like to have the slinky. I like to do this every once in a while. I have to. I'm crazy, but I'm all right.
The NBA might want a second opinion on that. After all, what other 6'8" power forward would put on a fashion show like this?
Too sexy for my shirt, too sexy for my shirt, so sexy it hurts.
For the man in you,
For my hat, too sexy for my hat.
the court jester. See, even Stone Thugs laughing.
After picking out his uniform for the evening, Rodman headed for shelter, where he defied the old adage for peak athletic performance: early to bed, early to rise.
But other than that, I'm ready to rock and roll. I party on and off the floor, no matter what it is. As long as I get my rest, as long as I take care of myself, I'm all right.
To a lot of people in this crowd, Rodman was more than just all right. Even as our cameras rolled, women approached him, proposing a little one-on-one. something Rodman says happens all the time to NBA players.
I love you.
Thanks a lot,
I
darling.
really do. I think you're gorgeous. Yeah, you really appeal to me. I think you're hot. I really, really, really love you, and I really, really, really want to take you out.
Chapter 8, entitled Sex. 50% of life in the NBA is sex. The other 50% is money. You really believe that?
Of course.
And it doesn't matter which city.
It doesn't matter. You could be in Canton, Ohio, and they're there. North Dakota, South Dakota, they're there. They'll bust in.
This fan had been waiting for Rodman outside the players' exit in Miami, where Rodman returned to the NBA wars following his suspension. The woman, who'd been waved past security by Rodman, had a message for him.
It's like being in the meat market now. You know, you got your fresh choice. You got this, you got that, you got your cut here, you got all kind of cuts.
The sex is easy, too easy, according to Rodman, in this supposed age of awareness about AIDS and other sexually transmitted diseases.
What impact did Magic Johnson's illness have on lifestyle in the NBA?
It slowed people down for a while, but people go right back. Everybody go right back. Hate to say it, but it's like that.
Although Rodman is used to being pursued, in 1994, he was chased and caught by someone he thought was out of his league, the material girl herself.
What in the hell is she doing with me? I mean, she could get anybody she wants in the world.
Rodman writes that Madonna called him the prime physical specimen. 2 years before her recent disclosure that she's pregnant by her current boyfriend, Carlos Leon, Rodman says Madonna recruited him to be the father of her baby.
She's been wanting to get pregnant for a long time. She's just been waiting for the right person.
Did you want to have a child with her?
God, that's a hard question. In a way...
At the time?
In a way, yes, because she treated me with the utmost respect. And you know, anybody that's lucky to have her would, oh, God, hold on to her.
There was a certain vulnerability that you saw in her that you liked.
No, I love that because she was so strong, but in the same sense, she was so much like me. But inside, you want to be humble and...
You can say it, Dennis, you want to be loved.
God, that's kind of hard for me to say. God, yeah. You know.
Right?
Yeah.
In Chapter 10 of his book, Madonna, an old-fashioned tale of romance, Rodman does write romantically, even sweetly, of the person behind the performer who's made a career of pushing the erotic envelope. But Rodman also serves up some classic kiss and tell.
The more we was around each other, it was more like, you know, this girl wanted, you know, get solid.
Get solid. I've heard it called a lot of things, Dennis, but I haven't heard it called that. Get solid.
She wanted to get solid, so.
She wasn't an acrobat, but she wasn't a dead fish either. Sex was great, not the greatest, but good enough. Is Madonna going to feel underrated when she reads this?
No, I think she say the same thing about me, too.
Rodman writes that ultimately the relationship didn't work because he didn't want to be known as Madonna's playboy, her boy toy. Being Mr. Madonna would have been a tough thing to overcome.
Did you love Madonna?
I love the Madonna, the person. She can go toss all the money in the damn ocean and all the glamour. She can throw that away, and, you know, that'll suit me fine.
Of course, there's love, and then there's fantasy. And for the man who's found increasingly imaginative ways to express himself and confound the NBA, Dennis Rodman fantasizes about serving up an unforgettable farewell as his final parting shot.
After my last game, here's what I plan to do. I'll walk off the court and take off one piece of clothing with every step. First, it'll be my shirt, which I'll autograph and hand to some kid in the stands. Then I'll toss my shoes into the stands, then my socks, then my shorts, then my jockstrap. That's quite an image that you've just conjured up there.
But you know what, though? It's a hell of a way to go out, isn't it? It's a hell of a way to go out.
And Madonna's reaction to Rodman's take on their past relationship? Her spokesperson says if the mother-to-be has any comment, it won't come until after she's seen Rodman's book. Bad as I Want to Be hits the bookstores tomorrow.